for coming. My name is Jackie Appleman. I'm the Executive Director of St. Joseph County Right to Life. And we are here today because our community is hurting. The news broke last week that police found over 2,200 fetal remains in the home of former South Bend abortionist Dr. Cloffer. And together, we also mourn the 30,000 abortions Dr. Cloffer committed, and we grieve for the hurting mothers triggered by this horrendous tragedy. We're grateful that the Indiana Attorney General Curtis Hill has agreed to work with Illinois authorities to launch a full investigation of this tragedy. But we specifically call on authorities to search each of Cloffer's facilities in South Bend, Fort Wayne, and Gary to ensure all the remains of aborted children are found. We additionally request an investigation to determine if any other former employees have been complicit in storing, hiding, or selling fetal remains. Lastly, we request that the remains be identified. Women have been reaching out to us since the news broke, afraid that the bodies of their children are laying in this man's garage, and they deserve to know. St. Joseph County Right to Life is working with Pro-Life Action League, Monica Miller of Citizens for Pro-Life Society, Allen County, Lake County, and Indiana Right to Life, the Life Center, and other pro-life organizations, as well as Palmer Funeral Home and a local cemetery, to ensure they receive a proper burial that reflects the true dignity of the human body. Whole Women's Health Alliance, a local abortion business, has called this practice shocking, yet they show the same disrespect of human bodies. The only difference is they send women home to deal with the messy aftermath of abortion alone and without support. The last thing South Bend needs is an unlicensed abortion business and another rogue abortionist. I stand here today with members from various walks of our community, and we stand together in calling for justice, healing, and an end to abortion. You will hear each of their stories and calls for justice. And to get us started, I invite up Lynn Scherschel, Vice President of Lake County Right to Life.
Hello, thank you all for coming. This is a very important thing we're doing here. As Jackie said, I'm from Lake County Right to Life, Vice President, and we had not reached out to the Gary Clinic at all. And our first outreach was on September 28th, 2012. And when we arrived that first day, the first person I talked to in the parking lot was a woman who had brought her 13-year-old daughter there for an abortion. So we knew that that was happening, but it was not reported to any of the authorities that it's required to be reported to until we didn't know anything about it, until we got the termination of pregnancy report like a year later. And the law in Indiana requires that that kind of abortion, underage abortion, be reported within 3 days. So that abortion was one of 3 unreported underage abortions that eventually contributed to George Klopfer's appearance before the Medical Licensing Board and contributed to the ending of his career. At Gary, for that first day, I noticed that the front door to the clinic was blocked. It had kind of like an accordion garage door that would come down. And so I reported that to the Gary Fire Department and also to the Gary Common Council, because that only left one entrance in and out. So in case of fire, it would have been very dangerous. They went in and inspected, and the inspection revealed the following: 2 rooms filled floor to ceiling with boxes, with only a narrow path snaking through the room. The procedure and recovery rooms in the basement, standing water in places in the basement, a foul odor, and outdated equipment stored randomly in the basement. And that's just kind of the, I'll say, lowlights, not highlights. Following our filing of over 600 complaints with the Attorney General's office, a subsequent inspection by the health department revealed the same conditions. The revelation this past week of abortionist Klopfer's collection of medically preserved babies has been shocking and sickening, to say the least. I think it's put many of us kind of on our ears. I would not have been surprised if a mass burial plot or something had been discovered on his property or any of his other properties, because we often saw him carrying garbage bags out to his car, put him in the trunk. Now I wonder if those bags contained the aborted fetuses that he had aborted that day. Do we have here another Kermit Gosnell, a serial killer who also kept trophies? The bodies of these dead little boys and girls speak eloquently, not only to what can happen even if a facility is licensed, but also the potential dangers of unlicensed, unsupervised facilities like Whole Women's Health here in South Bend. Because Klopfer had been observed going weekly, every week, to his clinics, even after they were closed 3 years ago, and even until the week before his death, I have to wonder, what was he doing? This activity in Indiana, plus the discovery of 2,246 trophies found at his home in Illinois, are the reasons that we're calling for a thorough investigation of his properties and activities in both states. Thank you.
I'm State Representative Christy Stutzman, District 49, covers Goshen, Middlebury, Millersburg area. It's a sad day to have to be talking about this, and yet at the same time, I feel like we must talk about it because this demands action, this demands answers as well. There's a lot of questions that were brought up by what happened last Friday. So on Friday, I'll read you my official statement and then have a few more comments. On Friday, September 13, 2019, the family lawyer of recently deceased Dr. Ulrich Klopfer contacted authorities in Will County, Illinois, after discovering over 2,200 medically preserved human remains on the family property. Because these were human fetal remains, and because Dr. Klopfer owned and operated 3 separate Indiana abortion facilities, I am joining several of my colleagues in the Indiana State Legislature to request that our State Attorney General, Crete Il, conduct an immediate investigation into the origin of these remains, as well as to conduct a thorough investigation into anyone employed in the facility during the time that he was operating. These human remains must be properly identified, and under current state law, should be given a proper and dignified burial. We are requesting the full cooperation of the Illinois authorities involved in this case, as we consider the strong possibility that these human remains were transported across state lines illegally and kept without proper oversight or in adherence to state licensure requirements. We don't know how many women or how many families will be affected by this case, but it is incumbent upon us to thoroughly and effectively look into this breach of trust and this blatant disregard for the sovereignty of our laws and the rights of the patients and families affected by this case. We will not rest until justice is served to the victims, both living and deceased, and until steps are taken to ensure that this atrocity never happens again. We also understand from those who are constantly being on the forefront of this issue and making sure that these clinics are in compliance with state regulations, which, by the way, are not overly ridiculous. So I've heard that comment as well. These are reasonable regulations that are commonly in place for any medical clinic. And to see another clinic in South Bend operating without a license when this has happened here, is just something that's unconscionable and needs to be looked into as well. And we also know that since July 6th, we have not seen any TPRs reported by the other a clinic here in South Bend. They're not complying like other clinics are required to comply, and there needs to be oversight and accountability with every clinic. This affects women, and you're going to be hearing from someone who is directly affected by this. And not just that, she speaks for thousands of women. I know some personally who have been traumatized, actually re-traumatized by this, who have tried to heal and have tried to find answers in their own lives and have just been re-traumatized by this. So it is time for action, and we will be investigating as thoroughly as possible, getting answers for those involved, and making sure that this does not happen again. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Eric Scheidler. I'm the Executive Director of the Pro-Life Action League, a Chicago-based national direct action pro-life group. This past Saturday, I found myself at Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, Illinois, at the burial place of 2,033 aborted children, much like Klopfer's unborn victims, who had been buried in 1988 in a solemn ceremony. We've been visiting this grave for the past 7 years as part of the National Day of Remembrance for Aborted Children, which we held just this past weekend at about 200 sites around the country, including more than 40 burial places of aborted children. There's something sobering about standing above the grave of 2,033 children aborted in the 1980s, thinking these children would now be in their 30s. Some of them would be parents. So not only were these 2,033 lives cut off, but the lives of all the children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the generations that would have spooled down through the story of human history, cut off by those abortions that took place in the 1980s. During this ceremony, my father, Joe Scheidler, who founded our organization and has been active since 1973 in this fight, told the story of the Abortion Profiteers series that appeared in the Chicago Sun-Times back in 1978, and which featured Dr. Klopfer, all the way back in 1978. The story told about Klopfer in that series, one of the stories, was that he used to compete with another abortionist, Dr. Ha, who would mark on his surgical scrubs how many abortions he'd done, keeping track, making tick marks. And when Klopfer saw that Ha was ahead of him, he'd race, hurry to get his abortions done. Some of the records kept showed that he was reporting 2 abortions done at the same minute. So either he was performing 2 abortions simultaneously or moving so quickly that it was a lightning pace. It's horrifying to think of. Here we are all these decades later, and he's back in the news for his ugly abortion business. Here we have the Women's Pavilion, where he performed his abortions. But think about that name, Women's Pavilion. Look at that building. What a hellhole. This is the pavilion for women? What are we saying about our women? What does that say about my 6 daughters? That this is the abortion industry's concept of womanhood, of what is appropriate way to reach out to women and say, this is who you are, this is what your life is about. To say to women, to say to Klopfer's, women that went to his clinics, you need abortion in order to be a free person. What a horrible thing to say to women. What a horrible thing to think of. The 2,246 children that were discovered at his home. They'd be running around the parks of South Bend, some of them, right now. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. You don't know when these abortions were done, whether they were legal or illegal. How many more corpses may be inside this building right now, inside of his other abortion facilities elsewhere in Indiana, or who knows where else. So I'm here today to speak on behalf of those children whose lives have been snuffed out by abortion, to call upon the state of Indiana and the state of Illinois, where those babies' bodies turned up, to care about these kids. You know, that piece in the Chicago Sun-Times way back in 1978 led the General Assembly of Illinois to enact laws regulating the abortion industry because of horrible things that were revealed by the Sun-Times. Now those same laws are being threatened by recent legislation signed into law this year by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, the Reproductive Health Act. When will we learn? The abortionists are not to be trusted. They're not to be trusted. We need to investigate them thoroughly not just Clopper, but every single one of them all around the country, because every time we scratch the surface, this is what we see. We owe it to those children, those 2,246 little boys and girls who are not with us today, to tell these stories, to reveal the truth about the abortion industry in Indiana, in Illinois, and all over the United States. We owe it to those children. Treating them in this way, telling those stories, is the one act of kindness, the one act of love and decency we can offer to those children this side of eternity. Let's do it.
Hello, my name is Serena Dykeson. When I was 10 years old, I began being groomed by my aunt's husband as I babysat their children. He eventually ended up raping me by the time I was 13. I had the courage to tell a classmate what had been done to me, which was reported to a school counselor, and my parents were notified. I was immediately taken to my local doctor's office to be examined. It was at that visit that I found out that I was pregnant from the rape. That day would be the first time I ever heard the word abortion. My family doctor referred us to Women's Pavilion Center in South Bend, Indiana, one of the 3 abortion clinics operated now by the infamous George Crawford. On the day of my clinic appointment, I was taken to a room alone where a counselor told me about a clump of cells. I was pretty clueless as what she was talking about, but when she asked if I was ready for the abortion, I nodded my head in agreement out of innocence, trusting that the adults had my best interest in mind. I was taken to a room, given a gown, and told to lay on the table. This was the first time that I saw George Crawford, another middle-aged man, like my rapist, but this time a complete stranger. He came in the room smiling and said, "This won't take long." That was the extent of our doctor-patient relationship. I was absolutely terrified as I laid in nothing but a medical gown, my legs spread with my feet in stirrups, and the strange man was about ready to do something to me which I had no knowledge about. I was embarrassed, unsettled, unsure, and mortified. As I laid on the table, I suddenly heard a loud vacuuming sound. The disturbing suction noise was much louder than our vacuum cleaner at home, and then I experienced the most excruciating pain I had ever felt. I began screaming in agony, only to have Crawford yell at me to stop making noise. I remember being shocked that this doctor yelled at me. How could he even care? Many years later, I discovered a journal of my mom's with an entry of that day. She wrote that from the waiting room she could hear me screaming, but they would not allow her to come back with me. It was heartbreaking to read. My mom and I still have not talked about it, and my dad won't talk about it either. They're not even together anymore. I know that if they've heard my story now, they would have never chose abortion for me. Once the procedure was finished, I was taken to a recovery room with other women. We all just sat there, not making eye contact. I was completely numb and disconnected. When I was told it was time for me to leave, I stood up, only to hemorrhage, gushing blood all over myself and the floor. No one brought the doctor in. They just hurried me out of the clinic while hemorrhaging. I was so weak and I could hardly stand that my dad had to carry me out to the car. There was never a follow-up visit at the clinic, and the abortion was never talked about again with my family. Even though I was 13 and I had no clue about motherhood, I suffered horribly from my abortion. I would struggle every single holiday and not understand why. I battled depression. I had a miscarriage, my ovary ruptured, nearly losing my life, and I had a complete hysterectomy by the age of 29. All the major reproductive issues I was having made no sense, but no doctor asked if I had a history of abortion. I used drugs and alcohol to numb my pain, had marital issues which almost ended my marriage, and I struggled to be a mother to my other children. One night, after a heavy night of drinking, to mask my pain, I had a radical encounter with Jesus Christ, and He would change my life and begin the healing process. Even after much healing and attending a post-abortive retreat, hearing the news of over 22,000 baby remains on Crawford's property stirred up so many emotions. I feel like I've been violated all over again. Now, for the third time. Friday night was the first time I heard the story. My whole body went numb from shock. That shock turned into lying on my bed sobbing at the thought of my baby being on his property. I questioned why he would keep the remains and realized they were probably trophies to him. My child's dead body was just his trophy. The grief was overwhelming. Then my tears have turned to anger to the South Bend Clinic, where they are operating without a license. It's an atrocity surrounding Crawford having a licensed clinic. I can't even imagine what is happening at an unlicensed clinic. The last few days, I have been getting many messages from other post-abortive women who feel the same emotions I have, especially since participating in the press conference on Monday. One of the most heartbreaking encounters I've experienced was talking to another post-abortive woman who was traumatized by the news. That when she saw a gas line being dug up, she began crying and saying, "I know they're burying dead babies here." It was like I was talking to someone that had just returned from war. Another woman said, "I feel so violated. She has taken the time to heal only to have her wounds cut right back open." As a woman who has suffered through this abortion, I'm asking for a full investigation to be done, including DNA testing, to match those sons and daughters to their mothers who want them for a proper funeral and burial. And for those mothers who don't come forward to claim them, they still deserve the same dignity. If Crawford can keep these babies for years, we should be able to provide them with a permanent place to be remembered in a dignified way. I'm also calling out Judge Sarah Evans to listen to my story and shut down the whole women's health. Lastly, I want to encourage post-abortive women and men not to hold on to this turmoil any longer. Please reach out for help and healing. There are many people in the community who want to help you with your healing process. We are here for you. Just because you made a choice does not mean you have to sit in the suffering. There is forgiveness, hope, and healing for you.
Morning. Mike Romo, the Northside Baptist Church in Crete, Indiana. 2,246 human babies? Really? Found in the home of a doctor? Doctors take an oath to do no harm. This man and others that take the lives of their children are breaking that oath daily, not just to the children, but to the moms and the dads too. You've heard stories of trauma of the moms, post-abortive, and the dads the same. For perspective, and I in no way diminishing the travesty these events I'm about to talk about. For perspective, in the American Civil War, the bloodiest war in American history, approximately 620,000 soldiers died from combat and disease. According to the U.S. Holocaust Museum, 6.1 million Jews were killed in Hitler's final solution. But today, over 61,600,000 children's lives have been deliberately taken by American doctors since 1973. That's 10 times the number of Jews killed by Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime. That's 100 times the number of soldiers that died in the U.S. Civil War. To put it in today's perspective, there have been 66 deaths resulting from mass shootings in the U.S. this year. In the same period, there have been over 660,000 deaths due to abortion. That is 10,000 times more people that died due to abortion than from mass shootings. Over 61 million children who today would be moms, dads, or grandpas, grandmas. How can we do this? This is an American Holocaust. This is horrible. This is an evil so great. It's so unbelievable that most people just turn their eyes from it. How can we do this? Perhaps you're thinking, well, these children are not relevant because they're just lumps of tissue. Let me ask you, if lumps of tissue were found, would there be an outrage? People understand that this is not the same as finding bags of toenail clippings. These are not lumps of tissue. These were clearly children, human children. People understand that the taking of the life of a child is not normal despite the efforts of the abortion lobby to do so. God has instilled in our hearts a sense of morality, right and wrong. People understand that you don't just keep dead bodies in your house. Osama bin Laden, among the most evil men to ever walk the earth, was given a proper funeral according to his faith. These children were not. All humans were made in the image of God and should be afforded respect. I'm not surprised that an abortion doctor who sees more value in the death of a child than in the life of a child would do this. Like abortion itself, the acts of this man were evil and wrong. Some have tried to use God's word, that is the Bible, to justify this kind of evil. This is an attempt to twist God's word to fit a personal agenda. This is an attempt to set man's word above God's word. We do not stand here in the pro-life community as self-righteous, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But God warns us against calling evil good and calling good evil. In Proverbs 17, it says, "He that justifieth the wicked, and he that condemneth the just, even they both are an abomination to the Lord." I join with many others to ask Attorney General to launch a full investigation into this matter and into the proper handling of all the bodies carried out of the abortion clinics. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Everett, and I am the Director of Project Rachel for the Catholic Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend. The gruesome discovery of 2,246 medically preserved fetal remains on the property of Dr. Ehrlich Klopfer has been upsetting to so many people, and it stands to reason that this revelation may be especially upsetting to those women and men who sought abortions from Dr. Klopfer, women like Serena. Over the decades that he performed them at his clinics in South Bend and Fort Wayne. The Catholic Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend stands ready to help anyone in our area to process the loss of his or her baby through our post-abortion healing ministry, Project Rachel. Project Rachel consists of a compassionate, coordinated, confidential network of specially trained priests, professional counselors, and lay companions, which provide an integrated array of services, including pastoral counseling, support groups, retreats, and referrals to licensed mental health professionals. This program is now offered in 140 Catholic dioceses in the country, and throughout the world. According to Vicki Thorne, who founded Project Rachel in 1984 and currently serves as the director of the National Office of Post-Abortion Reconciliation and Healing. While some women report relatively little trauma following abortion, for many, the experience is devastating, causing serious and persistent emotional, psychological, and spiritual difficulties. Women who have experienced an abortion may exhibit some or several of the following symptoms: low self-esteem, grief ranging from mild to profound, depression sometimes to the point of suicidal thoughts and attempts, a sense of alienation from family and friends, a feeling of being numb, not able to enjoy activities that used to be pleasurable, difficulty concentrating, isolating oneself from others to avoid discussing the abortion experience, guilt and shame, anger towards oneself, the baby's father, or others involved in the abortion, alcohol and drug problems which develop to dull the pain. Some women experience symptoms soon after the abortion. However, it's much more common for symptoms to occur over the course of 5 to 12 years or longer after the abortion. Sometimes a woman does not realize that the suffering she has been experiencing, perhaps for many years, is associated with her past abortion. Those who experience symptoms of grief and mourning after an abortion are often dismissed with the advice to get over it, and are left alone to suffer in silence, sometimes for decades, before seeking help and healing. Men experience aftermath from abortion as well. According to Vincent Rue, PhD, the co-director of the Institute for Pregnancy Loss in Jacksonville, Florida, who is also a psychotherapist and researcher, quote, men do grieve following abortion, but they are more likely to deny their grief or internalize their feelings of loss rather than openly express them. Because of this, men's requests for help may often go unrecognized and unheeded by those around them. Project Rachel exists to extend the mercy of God to women and men who have experienced abortion. As Vicki Thorne said when she came to the Diocese of Fort Wayne, South Bend in 2008, no one has ever called me and said that healing didn't happen if they opened their heart to God. In fact, women often give me a hug and whisper, "Thank you," in my ear. I recently met a woman whom I had counseled, and the joy in her eyes told me that the merciful hand of God had touched her and made her whole. For more information about our local Project Rachel program, please visit www.rachelhopes.org or call 1-855-RACHEL-HOPE. In addition, the Diocese of Fort Wayne, South Bend will be holding 2 memorial masses in October for those who have lost a child before or after birth, including through miscarriage and abortion. The first memorial mass will take place on Thursday evening, October 10th at 7 p.m. at St. Therese Little Flower Catholic Church just down the road. And the second Mass will take place on Tuesday evening, October 9th at St. John the Baptist Church in Fort Wayne. Those who attend these memorial masses will have the opportunity to record their child's name in a book of remembrance, to pray with others who have lost their little ones, to entrust their child to the mercy of God, and to take home a silk rose in honor of him or her. And please know that all are welcome.
I'm reading this on behalf of Linda Rogers, State Senator, District 11. who could not be here today.
I'm
appalled and saddened after hearing that over 2,000 fetal remains were found on Dr. George Ulrich's property after his death. Thousands of women trusted Dr. Ulrich to provide care, and I can't imagine the pain they are feeling. I urge Indiana's Attorney General Curtis Hill to work with his colleagues in Illinois to fully investigate this careless disregard of human life. We must work to ensure that this atrocity never happens again and that the abortion providers are held to the strictest of standards with thorough oversight. I stand with the right to life and all those that speak for those who cannot speak for themselves.
I'm reading a statement on behalf of South Bend mayoral candidate Sean Haas, who wasn't able to be here. Like so many other South Bend residents, I was shocked and deeply disturbed by the news of the discovery of more than 2,200 remains of aborted babies at the Illinois home of Dr. Cloffer, who practiced abortion in South Bend for years. This story has put South Bend in the national news yet again for the wrong reasons, as people try and understand such callousness and total disregard for human life. Civil society cannot tolerate such barbarity, and public officials will soundly condemn such cruelty. Although a mayor is limited in local abortion legislation and regulation, the Haas administration worked tirelessly to advance a culture of life in our city, which includes working with our faith communities and great organizations like St. Joseph County Right to Life. This begins with a strong public condemnation of such cruelty, a firm resolve from our city's chief executive to protect the sanctity of human life, and fulfilling the duty of enforcing the law regardless of political ideology or stance on abortion.
Father Gorman, pastor of Holy Family, and also St. John Baptist, and also on the board of Catholic Charities. I'm sure all of you are moved by all that we heard today. I know tears of my eyes hearing the tragedy. The word that comes to mind is just macabre. And then we look at our society, we wonder what we see in movies, what we see around us that so diminish the value of the dignity of life. What we need in our culture, I'm convinced, more than anything else, is reverence. Reverence for each other. One of the first things I tell my children in the classroom, I don't have any children, I'm celibate, right? But my school children that I'm responsible for, I say, the first day of school, you are an infinitely valuable, one-of-a-kind masterpiece created by God for a mission. And if we open our minds and our hearts to that mission, we'll recognize that. And I'm sorry, but really children are alive before they take their first breath. They really are. Statistically, scientifically, all the rest. And we look at the statistics, they're tragic. And they're warped. According to the 2016 statistics, I believe it was, for every 1,000 black children that are born, 420 were aborted. That's why many of the abortion clinics are near the struggling, the impoverished. They see it as a means to try and help poverty. Healing doesn't bring that solution. Among the Hispanics, I think it's 178 are killed for every 1,000 that are born. And for the Anglo population, it's 121. Abortion, did you ever look up the dictionary definition of abortion? It means travesty. So the pro-life community is often just worried about, oh, they just care about the baby, and then the mother, they don't care about the fathers. That's not true. I'm convinced that, speaking for Catholic Charities, I think it would be safe to say that any woman who wants to carry her child to term could contact Catholic Charities, and they could connect her with the resources and the means to care for that child and their life as it goes forward. My friends, we just need to pray. We need to have reverence for each other. We need to respect each other. Because the real battle is not against the pro-abortion people or the Democrats or whoever that might be. It's against powers and principalities that work very hard to deceive us and distort our understanding of what it means to be human. That infinitely valuable, one of a kind, masterpiece created by God for a mission. From the first moment of conception till natural death. Let us pray that our community can recover this. That we can do our part to heal the divisions, not be the divisions, but be peacemakers, to be people of love, to be people of mercy, and to help people know that there is mercy for them, no matter what they've done. No matter what they've done. I'm convinced that Judas' greatest sin was not that he betrayed Jesus Christ, but he didn't think God could forgive him. And the problem is people become so deceived that they think there's no mercy for them. There is. Our God is the God of mercy and love. My hope and prayer for all the women who have been involved in any way, shape, or form to realize that mercy is for them too. That God loves them. That God loves each and every one of you. And that Jesus Christ realized that in the world there's sin, but He's given us that solution to sin. And we embrace His offer of forgiveness and mercy. And then we repent. And then we build a community of faith that hopefully can grow in reverence for each other. Let us pray to serve our community and help recover reverence for life and reverence for each other. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for being here today. All of our speakers will be available for any individual interviews or additional questions. Thank you.